I had my own system, I had my own products. I was trying to understand how those things work. I think that the only way to understand something is go and do it and figure things out as they come. So I started my own system. I didn't know anything about affiliates and technology and all that stuff. So I managed, like in 3 months, to set up a WordPress blog and an affiliate system with plugins and stuff. I was just trying. And that went on for almost 4 years. I didn't make any money. Maybe I don't know, 10 or 20,000 a year. And I was pretty much living on that because I had my business with graphic design as a freelance. It was not going well, so I was making almost no money with my business. So at that time, I lived in a really small house, had 4 kids, and they were all living in the same room, same bedroom. And it was really old. I couldn't afford rent, never. So I was always late. Sometimes I had to be bailed out for my family. So after 3 months not paying, somebody has to step in and pay them all so I can start again. So I had a lot of troubles with financials, just supporting my family. And that was the place where I was when I really not in finding Power Network. I was found. That's how I see it. My sponsor told me one time on the phone, he told me that he found a way to make $1,000 a day. And I thought it was crazy. I was not making that a month. So for me, that was not possible. And he said that he found a way with 100% commissions and stuff. He had his own system too, the internet marketing system. So he got out in the beach in Portugal and talked about it. And we decided to create this system with products that we had to build, and 100% commissions, and pass apps. And he saw it, something like that years before somewhere, and he had this idea, so let's just build it. We were working together for a few years, so he was the techie guy, and I was more the marketing guy. So we built something like that system before, pretty cool. So we decided to go and build this thing. And I was excited. Okay, let's do it. I started working on it. After 2 weeks, he called me again and said, we're not going to do that. Why? You know, I found that these guys, they have the exact same thing, and it's already done, with 100% commissions, with the pass apps and stuff. So I don't think it's a good idea for us to do something from scratch. And I told him, no, let's do our own. It's much better because you are in control. I was working on that for 2 weeks, so in the end he said, okay, so we do our own. After another couple of days, he called me again and said, no, we're not doing our own. It's stupid. It's a lot of money invested in systems and computers and technology and programmers. And these guys, I find these guys, they have it all for $19.95 a month. How stupid can you be? And then, reluctantly, because I was working on that for 3 weeks, I said, okay, if you think so let's throw all this in the garbage, and what do you have to show me? So he showed me this video with Lawrence Stapp talking about Costa Rica and David Wood, and that video was incredible. Like, from the marketing point of view, I was watching that, and I kept thinking about it for a long time, like for 3 days. I signed up immediately. But then I was observing the video as it rolled out, and I was observing the marketing there, and I was amazed. I was driving and got myself thinking about things in that video, how well it was done. So I was really excited about it. And then The moment I joined, I had 45 euros in my pocket and no money at all. So my bank account was really low, negative low, like hundreds of degrees below, thousands. So no credit cards, and no money at all. So that was my last money, 45 euros. And I asked my mother-in-law to use her credit card to pay, and I gave her the money. So I bought the affiliate fee and the blog, and that was it. It's over. And then I learned that there were other products. 1 week later, I managed to buy the Inner Circle. But since the day when I started, I believed that somehow this could give me $1,000 a day, because my sponsor told me so. It was not my vision, but I believed it. So what happened is that I had no money. I bought my blog and shut down my own system and informed everybody. I had 120 affiliates. They were my affiliates. They were getting sales from me. I was paying commissions to them, and about 300 clients. So I told them all, okay, here you have download links. You download the shit you bought, okay, because I'm shutting this thing down. Because I found this. And I got maybe 60 signups in the first 12 days, something. So a lot of people joined. And one day, I was browsing through the back office, and I saw my name on the leaderboard for recruiting. Okay, 5th for the 7 days. And I thought, what? These guys that are here, this is really cool, because I'm on the leaderboard. I never made anything anywhere. I was not on any leaderboard at any stage in anything. So I found it was pretty cool. So I started to make money from the blog and Inner Circle. That's the only thing I had. So all those 60 people in the first 2 weeks, they all had the blog and then the Inner Circle. And I made money to buy the Costa Rica. And the same day I bought the Costa Rica, I promoted to everybody. So a lot of them, they bought the Costa Rica, so I made money to buy the 15K. So at the end of that month, I made $3,500. That was 3 times the money that I was making at the time. So I was sure that this thing will work, because I was watching it. It was working. And then the first 3 months, I made at the average the same. So I ended up in December with $13,000. But I was happy. That Christmas was good in a long time. So I was happy. But that was not $1,000 a day. This is why it's so important to have this ridiculous vision. Like, nobody believes it. You don't even have to believe it yourself. Just have it. You need to have it, and then do stuff. You don't need a plan. You don't need a plan to get there. I would never thought that what I was doing will get me to $1,000 a day, because I didn't know what to do it. I didn't know anybody that was making that kind of money. So I just doing stuff, and it was working. I was making some money. I didn't know there were events. And then in December, I knew, because Empower Network started to promote the Austin event. And that was my first event. So I met Lawrence down there, and Jessica, and other leaders. And then when I got to that event around the 19th, 2013, I'd been made during that month around $3,000. So predictably, this is going to be a month like the others. This is not growing. It's consistent, but it's not growing. So the dream of the $1,000 a day was really far. I don't know if I ever get there. But then I went to this event in Austin. That was really the beginning of the business. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was capitalizing on something that I had done before. But as you know, if you sometimes people say, well, I don't have a list, so I don't know how to make this business. You had success because you had a list. But that list was 300 plus clients and 120 affiliates, like 450 people. You go through the list in 2 weeks. Somebody come and join you, and the others, they will not. And then you start again with no list. It's exactly the same thing. You have to start to build a list. So I didn't have that. And then in the that event in Austin, it was the beginning of everything. It was very powerful. And I set my intention for the next event in Chicago, the Get Money event. I saw a picture like before. That I was to be on stage with a big check, because I saw the big check. That was for me. It was everything was the first time. So I saw this check. Wow, this is pretty cool. If I have a check like this with my name on it, I could get to $1,000 a day, because that's very attractive to everybody. So I want one of those, and I saw $60,000 on that check. That's the thing I saw at that moment. Then I changed some things, but I get to that later. But what happened? I'm going to jump to the results, and then I go back and the trading. Between the 23rd of that month when I arrived home to the end of the month, 7 days, I made $7,000. So I made $10,000 in that month. My first month, $10,000. And I was excited. And then Aaron Rashkin had this thing in Denver, and he invited me to go there in February. And I thought, well, this is another event, and I have to go. So I went to Denver. I was there for 4 days. And I ended up with that month of the February, sorry, $15,000. And then to March, $35,000. And that month, March, 6 months after I started, I had $1,000 a day every day of the month. So I didn't really believe it, not until I saw it. I couldn't think it was possible. After I thought it was possible just after I saw it, not before. And I think this is a recurring pattern to me, because after a while, well, I went to Chicago, and I was called on stage, and I had my check, $62,000. So everything came together and started to happen. And then on another event in Miami, a little later, we had this cruise, and this is when it started a new phase of the understanding. One thing is that you're going through some kind of process, and another thing completely different is your understanding of the process. So at that event in Miami, somebody asked me, I went over $100,000, and somebody asked me, what are you doing? And that question struck me like, what? What do you mean? What are you doing to have those results? And I thought that was common. Everybody was making that kind of money. Because, you know, I'm just one guy like the others. I'm not doing nothing special. And I was between these 50 people at that boat, and they started to ask me stuff, and I said, why are you asking? And then I realized that I was one of the few. The one guy that has the results that other people look up to. Yes, what? And that's a weird feeling to have. You know, like, and they were asking me, what the hell are you doing? And that was the first time somebody asked me for advice. And I didn't know what to say. And I started to think, and I said, I don't know. How come you don't know? Imagine, in a boat with a microphone, 50 people expecting you to help them to have results, just with across $100,000, and I didn't know what to say. It must be doing something. I don't know. I write in the blog, send emails. I don't know. I have leads. What else can I say? I don't know. What do you mean? So that was the first time I realized that I was doing something unusual without knowing it. And that's a problem. When you have a team, and you want to train the team, and you don't know how to train them because you're not aware of what you're doing. So I started to study everybody else to see the differences. So when somebody came to me and said, "Can you help me get results? Show me your blog. Show me your emails." Because I wanted to see why this person didn't have the same results as I did. So I started to study wrong stuff to understand the difference. And that took me a long time, maybe 6 months. Just going around and see where the difference were. And then I started to understand where were the differences. And since day one, when I started, I was in deep problems financially, but I never went after the money. Like in the messaging, I was desperate for money. But somehow, that really never came out. And I was always in the mindset, I always framed things like, I know something that can help you. And that was my message since then, without realizing it. And then when I realized it, I started to teach people how to do that. And it's so hard. If you're not aware of it, the smallest word gives you away. Your need. And it ruins everything. So I started to read blog posts from my team members, to read their emails, and to detect, like a metal detector, detect scarcity. No, not scarcity. Scarcity.
Desperation.
Desperation, yeah. No, the need they have for money. And it's in various ways. Most of the time, it's not obvious. Well, it's almost never obvious, at least for the person. But if you have a trained eye, you start to identify those words. Like grammar errors. Like, I used to be in deep problem financially, and now I'm trying to. And that trying to says everything. You still have financial problems. And this message goes across. So the other person, and I learned that all communication goes from your unconscious mind to the other person unconscious mind too. And you are having conversations, and neither of us are really aware of what's going on. And the prospect says things like this. This thing that this deal looks good, but it's not my moment. This means that it's resisted because of things you said, or the way you put things. But he's not aware of it, and you're not aware of it. So he can correct it, and the next time it's gonna do the same. So I started to go through all these patterns and to understand the level of conversation, and see that people sign up 5, talk to 7 people and 5 subscribe, and the others talk to 100 and none, they don't subscribe anyway. And I learned that it's all have to do with your small details. You can learn that. how to avoid it. And for a while, I made a list of the most common mistakes in communication that I was aware, and I trained people on how to avoid those. So after you write your email, you go back and you go hunt for these mistakes, so you can identify them and correct them. Didn't work. It's very hard for the person to be aware of it. But didn't work not because of that, because you can teach that. Didn't work because even though with all the techniques and all the corrections, your subconscious mind is inside the corrections and replicates the same mistakes. There's no way to learn this except for transformation. So you need to become a different person. And when we become a different person, the technique is the least of your things. That doesn't become a problem, because everything comes and flows naturally, no friction. Everybody understands you perfectly, and better yet, you can understand other people and learn how to communicate with them on another level. And this was what I'm sharing right now. It took me more than 6 months to understand.